downside. I thought you meant downside. You want to choose council.
I will try to do it. If not, I'll try to Zoom. I don't know. My daughter's got a cross country meeting under. She's supposed to have one tonight. For some reason, they canceled it. It's not like they I don't know. It didn't really rain up, I hope, but.
No, we didn't get much. Just like
Or not by me. Those guys are putting up that.
Well, there were guys up on top of the bins that go up. And it came through once real quick, just flat out down.
And he had an electric drill out there. Well, he couldn't do it in the roof panel. So right now, it's 24 by 30.
Yeah, right now.
Do that for you real quick. Well, it starts raining, and I've got a quarter drill, one of those old fashioned shiny.
Oh, yeah.
The very last panel. It had been raining, and then it was just misty. I had my work boots on. And I stood up, and as soon as I stood up, I thought I had my I'm going down, so I'm sliding down really fast, but I'm thinking, I got my hammer in my hand. I thought I had to turn around, I was getting to spike it in there. I thought we didn't have any more metal. I'm gonna finish this tonight. I'll take my chances. I slid off the side. He had a busted up pile right here of silver blocks. And right here was a pitchfork that was handed off. It buckled me over, man, I'll tell you that.
But did you get the roof fixed?
But I jumped back up there, put that last piece on.
Yeah, my little buddy goes, that pitchfork would have been.
You made it a whole day in daycare.
Shall we call the meeting to order, please, in the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is just one addition to the agenda tonight. The director of EMS had asked for a spot on the agenda, and somehow the auditor had not added that, so we had approved that he could meet with us tonight. He wanted to talk a little bit more about his efforts that he's making to sort of adjust our pay to what we're seeing in other counties. This is the September 20th County Council meeting. We are present in quorum. Who do we have on? I believe Don's there. He told me he was going to be on via Zoom. Is Don White also attending via Zoom? I sent Don White a message earlier, but okay. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Have before me here the meeting minutes from August 16th, 2021. Does somebody want to make a motion that we these?
So moved.
Have a motion from Brad. Is there a second? Second from Kay. Is there any further discussion? I'll ask all those in favor to please say aye.
Aye.
And is there any opposed? Please send this to Brad last, and we'll make sure that we get the documents back. We also have one here that's a signature only. Part of the stack there is the business that we have before us.
We should have something for us to sign that we were supposed to sign last time, but I signed the wrong side.
Is it eligible?
Yeah.
These are just all the ordinances.
I'd like to bring up a point of order, Dave, wherever you can.
Why don't you go ahead and do it now?
Oh, yeah, sorry, wait a minute. I'll need to sign that. Point of order. I think it would be beneficial to us and everybody in attendance that whenever a person speaks, they state their name and who they represent. Just so we have it for the record.
Point taken, we
And
should
we
be
all
doing
know.
that, so, yes.
It is beneficial. We get that sometimes somebody doesn't, and I hate to be hyping up and saying that, but I think it's a good thing because then
I know I
It
attended a
shows up
meeting
in the
not too
minutes.
long ago, and there were some people talking and nobody knew who anybody was, and I think it would maybe still
It
confusion.
is helpful, that way, yeah, that way we know where they're from, and yes, point well taken. Shall we proceed into the budget adoption? We've had our hearing. We've been open for remonstrance. All those steps.
I got teaching.
We actually have to open a hearing for the budget adoption too, or we're done with that, right? We should be able to just go through the adoption. of this meeting,
You
right?
already had your hearing, haven't you?
There's nothing,
Right,
there's no
this is
remarks
adoption.
now or anything. We're done.
I think you
Okay.
had, you already had the hearing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
No, they-
Make a motion, we approve the county general budget for 2022. Clerk in the amount of $207,295, auditor in the amount of $195,287, treasurer in the amount of $104,794, recorder in the amount of $82,264, sheriff in the amount of $878,000 $878,402, surveyor in the amount of $84,567, coroner in the amount of $53,412, prosecutor in the amount of $103,667, annex in the amount of $12,763, EMA in the amount of $41,749, election in the amount of $124,548, EMS in the amount of $1,387,927, Purdue Extension in the amount of $121,908. Planning Commission in the amount of $124,057. Drainage Board, $11,100. Veteran Service, $17,028. Commissioners, $2,424,899. Annex Maintenance in the amount of $83,024. Jail in the amount of $78,562. Courthouse maintenance in the amount of $86,333. Circuit Court in the amount of $523,960. BZA in the amount of $20,959. Soil and Water in the amount of $35,959. IVD Prosecutor in the amount of $175,745. Council in the amount of $40,140. IT in the amount of $302,571. For a total county general of $7,322,924.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, this discussion then, also, if we have the other folks here too for the other budgets and the other ordinances. And then looking for the ordinance for the appropriation of the tax rates combined with the other, the highway, the others, that brings it to $15,403,583. But we'll motion a second.
Well, I
on
have
that.
to do this one too.
Right, yeah. Starting with that, a motion and a second, all those in favor? Is there any opposed? Okay.
Okay. Bear with me. Also make a motion that we approve the following accounts. Seat it in the amount of $1,040,326. Jail seat it in the amount of $2,603 or $603,999. Cume Bridge, $230,408. Cume Cap, $250,000. Enhanced Access Fund, $15,000. Firearms Training, $30,000. Health, $169,320 or $298. Local Health Maintenance, $33,139. LRS, $398,000. County Corrections, $16,000. Highway, $2,984,936. Assessor, $403,692. Elected Official Training Fund, $5,000. 911 Fund, $494,135. My half done. Supplemental Adult, $104,051. Supplemental Juvenile, $12,994. Drug buy money, $5,000. EMS donations, $40,000. Farm Fund, $15,000. Auditor transfer fee, $11,750. PTD fund, $87,500. TC program, $411,900. Project SCCC project income, $184,232. State pay public defender, $62,200. DOC probation grant, $79,388. Victims assistance, $36,299. LHMF tobacco settlement, $17,496. SCCC grant, $430,069. JDAI coordinator, $17,911. WIC, $136,688. WIC breastfeeding, $7,302, for a total of $17,656,637. And the next time I do this, we'll have to be with glasses.
You have a motion, is there a second? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Is there any opposed? Okay. So, well, that's what I was trying to line up with what you had there. Those were all just read off as part of that. That's the ordinance. That's what I was trying to figure out with all. These are all.
Zero. You don't look you.
So since the auditor is not here, that's why I had mentioned earlier when Brad was reading, the numbers that I have here on the ordinance, they're all zeros. So, but I think what we'll do is we'll adopt.
Let me see what you got.
That starts here.
I think those are all funds that receive the funds, you know. So the ordinance that maybe you want there zeroed out in the ordinance.
I'm guessing because those are the ones that they already have money in them. That's just their ability to spend them.
Yeah, I think that's what we received into.
If we have to correct it, let's correct it next time. I just don't remember this zeroed out before. I mean, usually I thought they matched what you read.
So you're planning, and these are the home rule ones that aren't.
That's
So
what I was looking for with home
so
rule,
do you
yeah.
adopt it, and if there's a problem with it, we'll,
Yeah, right, that's something,
I think
yeah.
that's the thing to do, yeah.
Yeah, so just with council, we'll go with that. The problem was is that we had an actual number in the document that was given to read. Then on this document, they're all zeroed out, so we'll just do that, and if we have to change it, we'll change it, so. Motion second, all those in favor? Aye. So then the next one. Take them in order. We have North Judson here. I met with Dr. Zupan and her staff, and sounds like things are actually going quite well with things. And so,
Make a motion, we approve the posted budget for 2022 for the North Judson Sanford School Corporation in the amount of $1,413,537. Is that right?
Total budget should be 12.8 million.
Yeah. We have rainy day, debt service, school pension, education and operations.
Yes.
Those are the only ones we have.
Yeah, education.
Education and operations are zero.
What form? are you looking for?
Budget form
Form four.
number 2 or number 4.
Yeah, I guess.
True.
so.
I was like, I
Okay,
only
so-
met you myself, I guess.
No, sorry, guys. I'm Dalton Tunis. I'm a new business manager at the North Judson Sanford School Corporation. So this is my first budget here. So I'm more than glad to present a budget summary to you guys if you would like.
So since
in Gateway since all of the numbers haven't been moved over to adopted. They don't pull through until they've been pulled into the adopted column. Then they get pulled to that. And Rachel told me that after we adopt the budget,
Then giving us a total.
then we
Right.
pull those numbers over.
Normally she'll put a note, post-it note on the top of it. That has to- It's
Solid-
not, I mean, because some of these are
solid
moved
waste,
to-
airport.
moved over to adopted.
Do you know what your total was, Jim? Or Charlie? Do you guys know what your total was? 947, 964?
It's 1,449,964. That's what was advertised.
So both of them together.
So look up the total for you guys.
Well, it's still gonna be more than them two together. Who says 12?
It's 12.8 is what it is. 'Cause Education 6.9, operations is.
The adopted. The adopted numbers, are you texting?
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm.
What'd you say it was, Charlie?
The advertised amount was $1,449,964. Total budget estimate.
Allowed to go to any meetings
I
anymore
guess not.
On budget adoption night. Let's me check over her work first. Who said it was in the file?
It is?
It's the one that's like $4.99.
Okay.
See how many she said, it says in there. What'd you say, million four?
Yep.
49,964?
Yes.
And that's what the one says that she emailed us.
What, maybe I can help. What's the question?
Well, ours says 947,000,
Well,
and that's not where you're wanting to be.
no, you'd be surprised.
You want to be at 947? Sounds good to me.
Okay, but wait a minute. When the treasurer met with Bernard,
Hello.
you know, they put all that stuff in there in the gateway report. And
Well, they're.
at
reading
that
off the
meeting,
numbers,
after
and
that's
they're all
input,
zero.
On
and he
24.
runs the bells and whistles, he can
Can you
normally
talk
tell
to
us whether we're
She
under
don't
a
have a choice.
maximum
You
levy
signed right
at
the
or
numbers,
whatever
that's-
else.
Hey.
The system wasn't working. So we couldn't tell us.
No, all of them.
Subsequent
None of
to
these
that
are right.
time, he was able to come up with that number. We adjusted the
On-
budget to
Let me
match,
find it. I think I sent it.
and Kurt told our treasurer, go ahead with the 1,400,000, because I don't have that other Kurt anywhere yet. And don't worry about it, he says DLGF, we'll cut it anyway.
Right, which I did,
The
because those are
900 some
ones
thousand
that there's
is
already money
what
there.
the
We're not taking
900
money
is.
in.
947.
That I understand. But
Yeah,
like
that's-
the
that's
North
what
Delta
we
Schools
had.
one,
After. we
it's way
cut the
off.
excess
the
one.
airport one's way off.
So that's our actual budget request.
Okay,
Hell of a deal, huh?
so that is right with the airport after they cut the levy.
This 947 is right.
Yeah, the 947 is right.
Okay.
That's with the levy adjustment.
Okay, 947 is right, but, so the airport's right. But
See, the school.
North Judson School is like 12 million and ours says
$1
1
It's
million.
really the school. one that's
Right,
right.
12 million here and $22.
That's what I think.
44 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Your paper that you have here for the ordinance says 1,413,000.
Yeah, it's missing 3 items from Form 4.
Okay. Hey, don't yell at me. On the education line, there's 0, and on the operations, there's 0.
I'll tell you what, that's all right. Just tell her we're gonna move forward. Let's use his, this is from Gateway.
From their gateway, it says
Form 1,
Form 1 says 12,822,000.
which is the same thing we got in our email.
Yeah.
What is Form,
Yeah.
what's Form 3 say? Because what Form 3 says is what was published.
Yeah, this is
I'm
Form-
sure that's
this
the
is Form
same.
3.
Yeah, Form 3. has
Yeah.
that too.
It's gonna be all. Cause I sent all this to Rachel.
She just
before.
didn't bump it to Form 4.
Yep.
She's,
So there's-
Their form three
Yeah, that's what we
still
have.
says 12,822,000 and ours says 1,413,000.
should we pencil these in then with those numbers before we sign the ordinance? I mean, what?
Well, another thing, I said the right number.
There's a form.
Do you
Yeah, that's
have-
form 4, what you guys are looking at there.
Well, form 3 is
Form 3.
different than your form 4.
Form 4 is missing education, operations,
Right.
education and.
And rainy day.
operations.
What?
Yeah, so that's $10,000 plus right there, or 10 million.
Did,
Okay.
Well,
I don't know if I
So-
have an email copy of this or not.
We should approve it off of their form 3, not off this form 4.
This is what was published, right?
Okay.
It's 3.
Because, well, he has the form 3 here. And it's the 12 million. Right? Yep.
Sorry.
Okay.
My first time too.
what was emailed to us is you're correct. is
So
the correct number
Yeah.
Yeah,
On the right form.
yeah. I'm just afraid to adopt it,
Don't
but it's
add
not
to
on
it.
the ordinance, just to.
No, it should be. if
I'm
you-
just
if
the
you have-
messenger.
If you have emails, if you have emails that have it. the
We have
correct
all
number.
yes.
reviewed it, yes.
I think you should just correct this as a
Mean.
scrivener's error, you know.
And it's been
Approve it
published.
off of their form 3.
Okay, but we should write it on the ordinance, I think,
Yeah,
though,
go ahead
right?
and write it in there.
That's fine. Which one do you want?
You got the right numbers, write them in there.
Rainy day. 468, 814.
Education.
You got debt service, 1348161.
161, yes.
School pension,
65376.
yep.
Okay,
Education, 6,964,693. And operations, 3,975,000. Okay, now that that's clear.
We have
Okay,
those for
and
the
what
other.
I
was
just
the-
want to make you sweat a little bit.
I wonder if this
that's
is
fine.
the case on the others as well.
What was that total again, Brad?
$12,822,044. I make a motion, we approve the 2022 budget for North Judson Sanpere School Corporation amended to $12,822,044.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
Annette does not have to take a pay cut.
I'm not, you're not gonna even ask for any discussion.
Well, I don't know about that, but not on my part.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe there's zero in any of those ones. That's probably what's going on with that other form too, that something didn't jump to form 4. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, go to the next one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have a nice one.
Do you know what yours is, Steve?
440.
Yep.
Awesome.
Perfect. Make a motion, we approve the 2022 budget for the Coons Lake Conservancy District in the amount of $440,222.
Second, okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
Make a motion, we approve the 2022 budget for the Starke County Airport Authority in the amount of $947,964.
Have a motion for the airport authority. Is there a second? Second from Howard. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
And the last one, I make the motion, we approve the Starke County Solid Waste Management District budget for 2022 in the amount of $289,221.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second from Todd. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Is there any opposed? We had 5, right? I mean, we have 0.4, I mean, we have a point.
Unless you want. I'm gonna take it.
Okay, for Leslie, we have a transfer to talk about and a
Judson Center School. It's like airport county. Wonderful.
Okay, so it looks like you're just adding, we'll just knock that out real fast, you're just some things in the first postage. You've already seen all this. but-
Make a motion, we approve the transfer from the prosecutor in the amount of $7,434.74 in the perf, 500 in the postage, another 500 in the postage, 6,000 in the office supplies, and $4,238.01 into trial preparation, and those are going to come out of deputy prosecutor in the amount of $10,672.75 and clerk in the amount of $8,000.
I asked Rachel to get with you too to start planning for PTD, so she said that's going well. so
Yes, we've been
glad to
working
hear that.
together. Thank God she's not mean, however, Mr. Hazelton.
Yeah, that's a lie.
I told her said that she's mean.
She knows.
Hopefully that keeps me in her good graces, so she continues to help me out.
She thinks I'm.
She here.
What are you doing on there?
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, guys. Gotta tune in, make sure things are going right.
Well, obviously they're not. She check on you like this all the time?
Let us double check your work next time before you take a vacation.
I got my motion for it.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
I think Howard beat you, I think. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Is there any opposed? Okay, and then about the victim's advocate.
So to kind of lump the investigator victim advocate stuff into one thing, excuse me, HealthLink has, through their mobile integrated response grant, they have money available that we can utilize for opioid response in one shape or another. HealthLink has agreed to provide grant funding for the investigator position. I've spoken with HealthLink at length, and they are agreeing to fund that position in full. And they are also willing to supplement the salary of the victim advocate in the amount of, it's about $1,660 a month, give or take some dollars and cents. The goal for the investigator position within the constraints of the grant through HealthLink is the primary responsibility for the investigator is going to be to respond to overdose situations and treat those situations like a crime scene. They will be utilized in other ways throughout through the prosecutor's office, but the biggest thing is going to be a response to the overdose situations and hopefully trying to get to the bottom of where drugs are coming from in terms of our overdose cases. For the victim's advocate, the additional money toward that salary is going to be utilized to work on a couple of projects that we have been kind of looking at. We have an overdose fatality review meeting that meets every month. And one of the things that we've identified as being a consistent issue with our victims who overdose is that they haven't graduated from high school. They don't have a GED, and there's some educational gaps in terms of those individuals. So my current victim advocate, what would justify the pay raise is going to be working on a truancy program and how we do some after school programming with the school, working with the school a little bit more to address those needs to hopefully curb the issue of overdose. We've found some programs throughout the state that we're hoping to not necessarily mimic because they're in larger counties, but bring some of those some of the positive things that they've had in their programs here, and hopefully see some changes in terms of our kids and making sure they stay in school. Our target for the Victims Advocate, the truancy program, is going to be your middle school and early high school, just because that's, I think, the target range that we need to really work on. And obviously, this grant funding is something that may not exist next year, although HealthLink doesn't necessarily believe that because of the current direction in terms of the opioid crisis and overdoses as a country. But it is one of those things that may not be there. And so the job description for the investigator is based upon the funding being there, and the increase to the victims advocate position is based upon the funding being there. And my current victim advocate is aware of that. And obviously, anyone who is hired for the investigator position would be aware that that funding may not be there and their job may not be there. The way the funding works is that I believe in February and March is the start of the grant cycle. HealthLink will apply for the grant, and if they are awarded the grant, then we obviously will receive those monies. I believe, and forgive me for looking at my phone, the total amount of money that we will receive if this is approved is $7,367.67 per month for both the increase in the victim advocate position as well as the newly created
So
position.
this is a $1,660 raise per month for somebody that's already doing a 40-hour
Correct.
job.
Well,
So
30.
it's just like giving them a bonus for something they're basically already doing. Or
Well,
like,
no, this is complete. Some of the new tasks are going to be completely
that's
different.
$19,920 a year.
Not when you factor in benefits and that sort of thing. But I mean, it's grant money, and it's going to be added responsibilities in terms of what we're going to be looking at and what we're going to be addressing.
I guess the thing that I just don't understand, like just for some knowledge on like something like this, why wouldn't you want to like cover this part of this person's salary with this money? Like, why does it have to be a raise? Like, why couldn't, or why does it all have to be a raise? Like, why couldn't you like use some of this to cover her salary, and then that person or the part of that salary would go towards like the shortfall in PTD or something else? I mean,
Well,
it's pretty stout. That's a pretty stout increase. I've been just personally, I'm thinking for somebody that's already doing a 40-hour a week job that has a similar job description.
Well, it's not a similar job description because the added things that they would be doing are not part of that job description. This is something we're looking to broaden the horizons of the victim advocate position.
So in other words, you're saying they're taking on more responsibility.
Exactly.
You have to take a lot of responsibility for that kind of raise.
Well, and that's,
Well, and it's not only that, I mean, the position's already 80% grant funded.
And that doesn't affect the other grant, doesn't have any.
No,
So in other words, so then this person would be in 23, this person will be okay if they didn't get funded, taking a $19,920 pay cut.
correct.
would they still be doing this? Would they still have the same
The idea,
expectations that they have with this money?
the idea is with the raise in pay comes with more responsibility. So we would change how we look at, we would go back to how we look at the victim advocate program.
Okay. The inspector, I did some research on this, and it states in IC code 338039-4-1. In each judicial circuit, the salary or other compensation to be paid to an investigator appointed under this section shall be set by the county council or councils. That's great. This is the part that I don't like. The county council or councils may not reduce the number of investigators or compensation of any investigator without approval of the prosecuting attorney. So in 2 years, we don't know what's going to happen with the election. Maybe it's not Leslie. It could be somebody else. And we lose this grant funding.
We're stuck with it.
We're stuck with the investigator. The council doesn't answer to the prosecutor about money. You know, that's my personal opinion. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I'd hate to get stuck with this and then we don't have grant funding to pay for it. And now we're still paying this salary because we can't lower it and we can't take it away.
that takes the wind out of the sails, because I've been saying to Leslie, you find a way to pay for the investigating when they find it, but if we can't take it away, that does make it very difficult. Did you know that?
Mhm.
Oh, because you didn't mention that when you were talking about the position.
But there's also another way to go. I think maybe I'm wrong, Marty. There's also another way to go about that. We could, if they didn't agree to that cut, if the grant wasn't available, we could cut the budget in other areas. I guess I'm trying to.
Extortion.
We
No, I don't-
can always cut everybody's budget, but you have to
That's
be.
not what I mean.
I know
What
what
I
you
mean is I'm trying to help her,
My-
get her funds.
By statute, we have to fund certain things in the prosecutor. Now, the bonus is we're at our max levy. But let's say, for example, that time we're not at the max levy. I will tell you that I've studied this also for years, and the prosecutor could theoretically force the hand too at that time. Might not be Leslie that's in there, but really, there's no way to take it away. Take the money away,
Once it's there.
right?
Right. Unless,
The only thing that we
unless
can-
the prosecutor would agree with it.
No, I don't even know if that's the case, even if the prosecutor did agree.
It says that it has to be approved by the prosecutor to get rid of the position. Not approved by the council, who approved it to begin with. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Probably was a bad incident one time. When
Yeah.
when an investigator was fired for improper purposes. That's how those things get into the law.
The other thing is, even if we got a commitment from Leslie in some way tonight,
Well,
she can't commit anything that lasts beyond her.
Beyond next year, right?
One question I have.
Because you're up after next year.
A contract, you could make a contract that expires, and maybe that would be acceptable, but I don't know the answer to that right offhand. I'm saying, that strikes me as a possible way of doing it, is that you have a contract that has a time period and it expires, notwithstanding the terms of that law. But I'd want to see some authority that is actually.
This is gonna be a new person, not just a race for somebody, right? Like this will be a new body.
It's a new body, yes.
And we can't just appropriate the money for a 1 year, what if, right? Nope. Once it's there, it's there.
Not according to the statute,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
This is a real catch 22.
Did she send us anything with the amounts on there? What was how much was the investigator a year?
I believe it was $5,700 a month that HealthLink would supply to us for salary as well as benefits. It'd be commensurate to a police officer salary at the county level.
So 40, 43, 45,000 something.
This won't take place until, would this start in 22 then?
This could start next week
Hmm,
because the funding's already available.
Okay, I thought you said something about
Yeah, I thought you said next.
they had to get grant funding, get grant approval first.
So the
They had
grant,
to.
so this is a similar grant to when the sheriff's department got their social worker as well as their additional patrol officer. This is the same grant. And so the grant funding is already there and available and ready to go. The idea though for next year is they start redoing their grant cycle starts, I think, in February, March, and they submit at that time. And I think the grant cycle starts at the beginning of September, maybe the end of August. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I do know they start the grant cycle again in February and or March.
So
Can we do the one without the other?
could we get a commitment from her? She'll still be in office next year based off of what she just said. If the grant does not carry through,
What happens the next year?
once we eliminate it and she agrees with it.
There's one, the
What
one problem
happens
is,
the next year?
we're creating a
The grant
position.
is
I
still
don't
there, you know
know,
what I mean?
I know, I understand that.
So what about the contract he was talking about?
Well, it's a suggestion. I would, I would want to check to see,
Right.
on that. That's just like, what comes to mind is the end contract
Could we approve
everybody signed
the,
into.
do the victim's advocate without the investigator until he finds out what we can do with that?
I got a question. We did have, a few months back, we created a grant position for the sheriff
Correct.
Yeah.
with the understanding, grant goes away, the position
Yeah,
goes
it's the
away.
same money.
But my question is it the same situation with the sheriff as it is with the prosecutor? If
No,
Oh, you mean if the sheriff took the investigator under his? wing?
no,
No, it means the IC
No,
code about paying.
I'm
for it.
talking
no,
about-
that's just investigator,
okay.
a prosecutor's investigator.
My understanding of that IC code is that if the funding's not there, it's not there to pay for it.
That's not what that says.
We'll read it again.
Marty, do you have time to take a look?
Well, sure, probably take a little bit of research. Though, to see if there's any exceptions.
In each judicial circuit, the salary of the
Excuse me,
We did make that deal with you, if you could pay for
you
it.
did?
or other compensation to be paid an investigator appointed under this section shall be set by the county council or councils. A county council or councils may not reduce the number of investigators or compensation of any investigator without approval of the prosecuting attorney.
Any investigator, because I was thinking maybe we call it special investigator or something, but it says any investigator.
Let's change the title.
That's
I
what I was
wrote it
thinking.
down. Marty.
There was some way to-
See,
Are you looking
make
at
sure
it,
it was
Howard?
on it.
It's IC
Private
code
eye.
33-39-4-1.
Okay. On that anyway, so.
So do you want me to?
Well, I don't want to throw it out. I mean, the
Well,
worst we could do is table on that. and
That's,
talk about
do we
the-
want to table that?
Well, I could
but
write
a-
a memo for you. on
but
what-
approve
This workaround if you're interested. in
victim's
looking for a
advocate?
workaround.
Well,
Can
I
we,
mean,
can we do one without the other, Leslie?
I really don't know, based upon what the health link provided me, she included the entire amount in the MOU.
could we approve Marty based on you finding a clawback for us?
I hate to do that because the presumption is that there isn't, given that.
I'll make a
language,
motion to
honestly.
table it until Marty can
I'm sorry, but yeah.
investigate it
I
further.
wish I could have reviewed that.
Can we have a
beforehand.
motion to table? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, this discussion, I think it's better than throwing it out, but I mean, sorry. Especially since you have to go, you said they have to be together, so, because I think Brad was gonna make a motion just for the
Right.
victim's advocate, but
Is there a time limit on this grant? I mean, is it gonna go away on you if the decision's not made?
I mean, it's an annual grant, but I mean, it's money that we're losing out on, an opportunity that's being missed out on, just,
but you're saying they have the grant money also for 22 already too?
no, they
right?
have to reapply starting in 2022.
Oh. Yeah, we could be in big trouble though. I mean, if we can't fund the investigator starting 22. if we're
Our next
stuck
meeting is
with
the
it,
fourth, right?
Yeah,
Right?
it's the beginning of next month,
So it's
so
beginning,
it'll only
so
be
a couple weeks.
2 weeks.
Maybe you could talk to some of your people too, to see if there's a way around that. I mean, I think they're anticipating probably they'll get the grant money again, and hopefully they would. We need that kind of help here in Starke County. We really do.
Well, it's assumed that they're gonna get the grant money because of the nature of the world, but in terms of drug use, but at the same time,
Are they still using all that Trump money to pay for these grants?
I don't know.
Because I don't know when it was quite a bit of money they put aside during that time. But I think that's the best we could do right now, rather than throw it out. You found a way to cover it. We just have to figure out a way to make sure we're not stuck with it, you know? I mean, we did the same thing to the sheriff. He knows too that he has to give back. You know, if we don't do it.
It's kind of a counterproductive statute. It makes it hard for you to bring
Right.
that person on.
Especially if you're gonna fund them in this way.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of counties use that statute to protect their paralegals who also act as investigators in theory. And make sure that you don't ever have to reduce your staff because the staff tends to be very valuable.
I doubt that's the reason for it. I think the reason for it is probably that it was misused to fire somebody that somebody didn't like the investigation they were doing. But regardless of that, the statute's there, and so you really can't rely on why you think it's there.
I've actually had conversations with some bigger prosecutors' office, and that's how they label their paralegals as investigators to protect their positions. So I don't know the basis for the statute, but I do know that that's why there are some people who are placed into that role that maybe aren't like police officers in quote unquote, but they are paralegals that act as investigators, because that's basically what a paralegal
I
is.
got you.
Will it take you some time to find somebody to fill that role anyways, or did you already have somebody in mind?
I have a few people in mind, but I'm obviously not gonna really have conversations if it's not.
Right. I just didn't know if it was, like, you're obviously gonna have to. wait
Like
a
if we
month.
would approve it October 4th or whatever. Our
Or
next
even if
meeting
we
is.
did now, would it take you a month to find somebody is all I was wondering anyways. Like, is this really?
I really don't know, because
Yeah.
I assumed that it wouldn't be a thing that is actually gonna be real.
Your budget's already too thin, but for us to just cut you that amount next year, you know what I mean? Like if that did have to be impossible, you know what I'm saying? Like you.
Well, I guess that's the frustrating part, is my budget's already really thin. I don't have an operating budget. We operate based upon funds that aren't necessarily there. And this is just another situation where I have funding that can cover a position that's needed, that's definitely needed. And
Well, I mean, we can really hash a bunch of that out. I mean, obviously, there's a way to do that too, is move more cases through too. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen, but we want to help you. We just can't get stuck with that. That's all. I mean, you've got somebody else tonight that wants to talk about, their department. I mean, every department's suffering from what you're suffering, unfortunately. I mean, complain to the state about this. I mean, it's not anything personal whatsoever from the council.
I would personally like to see a way to let her have it. But
I would too, and I'm sure you do as well, Brad.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously. But
you don't know that in 2 years, it's
No.
gonna be Leslie.
No, yeah, that too, but we don't know if it'll get
And-
funded for 22 even. We definitely don't have any money in 22 and 23.
And I'm not saying you're gonna get beat, because I haven't been to a Democrat meeting in I don't know how long, so I don't know.
and I don't really care.
You don't care if you get beat?
It is what it is. It's what the people want.
Yeah, well, for now, let's more focus on what you need, to run your office. Marty's gonna review this and see if there's some way. we
And if
can
you have
work
any
with it.
suggestions for like, maybe somebody, may have dealt with this problem before and have a way, for example, would a contract, would a 1-year contract with the person that, the prosecuting attorney signed on with that, is that a known way of, dealing with this problem?
What if it was a paralegal that acts as an investigator, or was paralegal under that too?
That's the only word that said.
But if I put a paralegal as an investigator, that statute comes into play, because their title is as an investigator.
Well, I
And I
don't
don't
think
know
you
if
could
they're-
rely on the title anyway, honestly. I mean,
Because
because the function, I mean, they're usually courts don't like, like trying to avoid the application of a statute by changing something's name, But if that's their role, then the statute probably applies. But there may be a way to like limit it, given the circumstances. It would make more sense if you could make a contract. And that's the obvious solution, is you make a contract of 1
How
year
many
and everybody
paralegals do
knows
you
it
have now?
will expire.
I don't have any.
contract,
Or how many would you normally have?
right?
Maybe, I don't have any.
Right, but normally how many would you?
I don't have any.
Then
I
you have,
don't-
I thought you had one that just quit.
She was titled herself as a paralegal, but every single job description in my budget is listed as a clerk. It's the same as the clerk's office. So there's no paralegal that
Right,
works
I
in my
understand,
office.
but I mean, you had a paralegal, somebody that was acting as a paralegal.
She was acting as a paralegal, but that was not what her job title was.
I'm just trying to work with you.
No, I'm just saying, like, she wasn't a paralegal within the budget. If you looked at how she was,
I'm just thinking like, what if that person was replacing a paralegal and you took a paralegal, took somebody else away? Or they're, took the clerks away, I don't know. Something that's not bound by statute.
Hopefully Marty can find something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have, like I say,
I have
if
to
you have
recognize the
some
motion in a
suggestion,
second.
I'll look into it. If
I
you have a
was just in
suggestion
discussion
that
trying
maybe
to
some
think of
other
some other
offices
things.
use to deal with this when they have a grant, funded investigators, so that it doesn't become, an unfunded permanent position.
Or a fight between the prosecutor's office and the council. We want to get along with the prosecutor's office.
Well, another way would be like an agreement in advance, not that that wouldn't, you know, that permission would be granted, but we have to know that that actually is going to be legally binding, right?
Yes.
I mean, you could agree in advance. It seems like that would be the most, once again, that's where I get to a contract where the parties include, you know, the counsel, the prosecuting attorney, and the person who's going to take the job, and you all agree that you're not going to apply that. If that's, you know, you all have knowledge of it, you all, you know, just agree that you're not going to do it. But,
Yeah.
you know, and you could even, it could even be crafted so that it only kicks in if there's a failure of this grant funding.
Yeah.
Right, so that's
you
not,
couldn't get rid of them
that's
for
not
any
an
other reason.
improper reason,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
it's not a reason, it's basically like you didn't like who they were investigating, or you didn't like whether you didn't think they were a bad investigator or something like that. It had to be based on the failure of funding, you know, that's sort of an objective thing, but I don't know if there's any authority for that proposition, though, see.
I have no idea, and I also don't know very many offices. I mean, most offices in the state of Indiana, in terms of prosecutors, have investigators in-house. And so I don't even know where to start to look for an office that has had this issue in terms of it being grant funded. I'm sure there are prosecutors' offices that have investigators that are grant funded. I know in the job description I prepared and provided to the commissioners when they approved the position, it's stated in there that this position was subject to grant funding.
Right.
But
Hey, well, you know, the thing is now that grants are just kind of changing that direction, there may need to be some legislation that follows this,
Yeah,
you know, to change it.
clarify that as to how that's handled, right?
Right, because this is unique, because I agree, they probably, that statute wasn't created for this type of.
No, it wasn't created
No.
to make this impossible. I don't think it was, but you know,
No.
it's created to avoid an improper use of cutting the budget.
But by tabling it, we're not throwing the baby out with the water. I mean, at least we're carrying forward. Sounds like you have some pretty positive reception from the council outside from that. I mean, to me, I feel more glass full about this lately. I really do. You know, the fact that you went and found a way to, we all know you've been wanting the investigator for a while. I've met with you several times throughout the year on it. I think you've made a good case on why that position would be valuable for you. I'm just gonna be honest with you, I like that a lot more than giving somebody a $1,660 raise for doing their job. I'm more interested in this investigator, you know, if we could fund it. But, you know, I think we have to, you know, find some way to work with, I won't really say around it, just some way to work with this, because I don't think the statute was designed to.
Some way to cover ourselves.
Yeah.
In the event the funding would run out.
So motion, second, all those in favor? Is there any opposed? So, I mean, let's see what Marty comes up
Yeah,
with.
I'd say come to, what is it, October, is it October 4th?
October 4th, 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's the thing, is our next meeting's only 2 weeks away because we changed it, because she's still on
Auditor's conference.
the auditor has another party or another meeting.
Seems like that's all she's doing
Not even to say
anymore.
party, vacation, I should say.
Someone be gone.
Vacation meeting. So, 2 weeks, you know, thank you. Okay, then we have the additional appropriation to seed it of 25,000.
Make a motion, we approve the additional appropriation and county seated 1112 in the amount of $25,000. For anybody that doesn't know, that's our grant match for the food program.
We have spoken about that seed it last time. We have a motion. Is there a second? Got a second from Kay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? And then, you know, I had actually brought up with Marty in the commissioners meeting, but after reviewing the ordinance better, I didn't really see, I mean, everything here is pretty. Does anybody have any questions or pre-discussion on this ordinance for electronic meetings? I'm kind of glad really that Indiana has decided to carry forward with that. Just somebody like me that works on the road, or somebody like you that might have to, you know, well, any of us, actually, everybody here.
I thought it was gonna be-
Howard, like, you know, any one of us could be, I think in modern times, it's helpful for elected officials to be able to do, you know. this kind of thing.
The downside, I mean, the language could have been, I think they could have crafted the language a little tighter on the issue of participation. Because it would, the one thing I don't like about it for the council is that you can't talk about the funding of anything essentially. You can't participate in the meeting at all if that comes up in the meeting. See, not participating in that aspect of it would seem.
That's what I wanted to change.
Yeah, I know, without, and I could try to see, I mean, we could look, this is only really a policy document, it's not an ordinance, okay?
Right.
And so if you want to adopt it and you want me to look into that, that's one thing I didn't really like about it. This was based on other counties, and I felt like for the council, that just being disqualified for that issue ought to be enough, as opposed to being disqualified for an entire meeting whenever that issue comes up.
Yeah.
And that could almost be done, that could almost be used by somebody who wanted to get somebody out of the vote, right? So I don't think that was I didn't think that was good policy.
Does the person who's remote, do they count as part of the quorum?
They do, as long as, but the trouble is then they can't participate at all if like a budgetary issue.
Yeah, right,
comes up.
that's what I thought, that's what I was thinking
That's what
about
all
today.
persons-
That's what I was
Well, I
asking.
know, like,
about.
Everything we do is budgetary.
it seems overly, well, I mean, you could certainly discuss something and, but it really seems to limit, it seems to be overly harsh on the council.
You check it some
Well,
more.
you could, or
Approve it.
my suggestion, since this is only a policy document, is that you adopt it and then you tell me all the things about it you don't like, and I'll see which one of those we can change.
That was the
Okay.
main thing that I didn't
Is that
like.
just like the one the commissioners?
It is basically just like it. I mean, there's a couple really minor changes.
They don't
but
make decisions like that, like the
Right.
council,
No.
that's specifically.
It's, and that seems like it's overly harsh, because I think you should be able to participate in the meeting, but not vote on that one thing,
It's counterproductive.
right?
Not to be able to continue with business because of it.
And you can only do what, 2 meetings in a row?
2 meetings in a
Right.
row, unless you're like you
Right.
say on a military deployment, or you have a health issue or whatever, right? There's,
Underlying circumstances, yeah.
yeah, they don't want people like,
Abusing it.
No, and that's,
living in Florida and
Yeah,
and being on the council, and I don't think that would be good either.
But you can still miss.
Which we talked about that before with Representative Russell
Yeah.
about this, and the one thing that they were trying to put in there was that you have to be in the county that you're doing it in while you're on Zoom, or in the state of Indiana, so that all of our representatives aren't in Florida and voting on stuff in Indiana. But I'll make a motion, we approve the resolution of the electronic meetings policy of Starke County Council.
With the change that Marty's looking at.
Well,
Just do it.
approve
You
it.
can amend it anytime, so,
We'll just amend it. We'll just make
I
it
will,
amend.
that one
Sorry.
point I will look at for sure. If anybody has any other things you'd like for me to look at, let me, because we could possibly, make some changes.
I assume there was some statute that the General Assembly created.
I'm telling
It's
you.
based
right now,
off of
she's
this,
all
I assume.
yours.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Mem-
Second.
We can't sign it anyway.
What did you wrong?
Member Freddie Baker,
Oh, gosh. I'm sorry.
member Robert Sims.
Sorry.
My old forms.
Just strike those and fix them, okay? I'll just go ahead and fix it. Sorry.
Okay, motion,
I thought
second.
Rachel.
Marty will fix that.
It's my
Second,
fault.
second from Todd, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? While Marty's fixing that, we'll pass it on
Yeah.
for signature. Let's move on to the discussion with EMS. If you want to come on up, Travis. So I spoke with all the council, some ways to try to close the gap with this. I have to credit Councilman Hazelton with this because he's been doing a lot of research just about what it costs to run EMS space, things like that. And we kind of come up with the dead end of it. If you're using a lot of paramedics, it costs about $4.5 million.
Yeah.
It costs about $4 million if you try to use a lot of EMTs. And so it sounds like the cost.
Well,
of staff.
450,000 per base.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, per base. Yeah.
If it was 4.5 million per
Yeah.
base, we're doing awesome, Travis.
Right. No, 450,000. So it ends up being like 1.3 million-ish to run 3 bases, saying that's just,
That's just salary.
Right.
so,
I know the majority of our budget is salary, it's close to $1 million just salary.
but, originally we've had some discussions with Travis. He's been in front of the commissioners. And so let's just try and I've spoken, we've kind of talked about some options. One of the things that I brought up to the council is, at least in this discussion about EMTs, the fact that we're paying $11.88 an hour And so one of the shortfalls there is that we've kind of got two things. We've got people that are making 1276. Like, for example, I looked at the part-time employee policy from the sheriff's department. Pam was nice enough to give it. And the way they do it is, and because the other thing that we found out is that EMT pay is really probably more in the range of 14-ish. So, so there's a couple of things to look at here to figure out how to pay this. You know, one of the things that I think down the road that we can look into, we talked about this a little bit, we talked about this in the past, is that in older days in Indiana, counties could work on installing what they call a local option income tax, a low tax. Well, the problem with Starke County is you had to qualify for a lot of low taxes and we were never big enough. Now, in the future, you know, there's been discussions about changes with EMS, with fire, a lot of different things. And public safety taxes afford that because it puts from income tax. And I think long-term, I think we need to start having some discussions about what we do. Fire departments are having discussions about fire territories. It makes total sense for fire and EMS to, you know, there's other things going on, but short-term, I think that the way we fix this is for employee retention is to close that gap with seated for now. Make some, you know, some conservative jumps. And I took the liberty to talk to Travis a little bit on the side, just to see like, you know, how do we at least get to that 14 with EMTs? And one way is to look at this schedule like they use at under the sheriff's department. They start somebody out at 1276, and then a 60-day review, they go to 1352, and then another 60 days, they go to 1428. Now, the benefit of that is that buys us 6 months to be topped out. Well, this wouldn't happen until the middle of next year. So, you know, that helps, you know, with that, you know, sort of shock that would be going on with seated. So that was one opportunity maybe of something to consider unless other people have other ideas. I think the other thing too, though, is that in terms of the medics, you know, right now we're at 1743, and I guess what surrounding areas are like more in the 19 to 22 an hour range. I think realistically now, you know, many other departments are asking for more money, all these other things, but I think this is kind of a unique situation because these folks are under what we're already paying people in other departments. So it's kind of nice. I wanted to look for something that kind of standardized it too, you know, another department. That way we're not creating a whole new wheel here, you know, of things like that. But I think that the other consideration, I don't think you could touch the EMT side though and not look at the paramedic side. Right. One of the things I was going to say was, again, looking at seated, we'd have to work with the auditor on how to make this work as this rolls in. But I think a fair way to start, and I haven't talked to Travis about this yet, but might be looking at a way to split the difference between the 1743 and the 19 for now. And then as budget comes on next year, work towards that too.
Or do we do, Dave, like the 17, start it, do phase 1, 2, 3 like that, start at the 1743, after 60 days, go to 1843, then 19.
Well, that makes sense too. Like let the director make that decision on how how he wants to phase that in.
Because you know, I understand it's not gonna be you, Travis, but in 60 days, right, you may have somebody that you're like, I don't think they deserve the same
It may not
raises,
be the same progress.
for example, you know.
It'll probably produce better employee, let's be honest, because they're working towards something. You know, we've never had something like that.
So I'm gonna round up and say that's like $1.50 difference. So that would be like 1825. Like if you split the difference between the 19, you say you're gonna start out at 1743, same schedule as this, and work up to 1825 for now. At least that way the paramedics are getting something too. Because we talked about this, and you told me they've only got like 10 cents raise.
Yeah, 1720 something is what we started at, and now we're at 1743. We've had paramedics for about 11 years. So, and kind of just like I put on the other page, you know, I started out here almost 15 years ago as an EMT at 1014. And we've only got a 15 increase since then. So,
Yep.
And then ending at 1825, where do you go between these two?
Hey, Dave, the only question I had, and I'm not trying to be obstinate about anything, obviously. if we're gonna do this schedule like the sheriff's, so are there 30 days gonna start over from right now, or is it gonna be retroactive and all the people that've been here are gonna go up to the top wage?
What would happen, no, what would happen is he'd start phasing that in.
Yeah, that's, I think that's something.
Otherwise, we can't afford that, right? I mean, we talked about that, right? Like
Yeah.
that would start, like
Okay.
that timer would
Right,
start
because
over
we're
here.
trying to stretch it out at least
Yeah.
a little bit so that
Right.
we
I'm
know
just worried
we've
about
got
the
the
cost.
funding for
You'll
this.
get into a hassle. Why
There
did it in
would
2
be
years?
one unique thing though, is that the paramedics would all bump to 1276. That would be the case though, so no offense. No, it's not paramedics, I mean EMTs. So no
Yeah.
offense to the paramedics,
Yes. it would
but I
bump it
think the
right
gap
away.
that we were trying to close first was the part-time EMT and, but also have some benefits for the paramedic too. So that's what, I think that's what would happen immediately.
Okay,
is
that's fine.
Working with Rachel, how we could phase it in, but as soon as possible, do the 1276 and start that schedule.
I know it's a large gap right now, but yeah, if we're working our way towards something, I think that's honestly what we're.
The council wants to extend, we really appreciate everybody in
We had about
EMS,
20 last time. I was like, whoa, don't
Well,
all come in today.
but we want to extend that. We want everybody to know that we appreciate it. We might need it, you know what I mean? So we appreciate everybody. Obviously, we just don't have it.
Here's what I think.
Oh, I know.
19 at the bottom where everybody else is at. If we're gonna move them to 1420, that's above. This is just right in between these two.
Okay, so if you want to take your sheet that looks like this, you got one of these for the sheriff's department?
No, just.
I'm just gonna pass it around, so.
That's my recommendation.
So 1743
To 18,
Start.
was it 1825
20.
to 19?
19.
Start the same for the paramedics and just going on.
Leaving the start. the
Yep.
same, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if
Yeah,
you
and
had a
then
chance to look at this, but this is kind of the pay matrix that, this is from the Fort County EMS, this is what they do, and they go based off of years of experience basically, so. When I did this, now Alaska and Newton kind of do similar to us, where they're paid kind of the same across the board. Fort County kind of doesn't step up like we're doing here. And so I did kind of a mid-range 5 to 6 year paramedic EMT for their base.
And I'm one that firmly believes you should get paid for your experience, but
Mhm.
on the other hand, in this situation, that would be a complete headache for
Oh,
the
yeah.
director, because if you hire somebody in that's got 20 years experience, but you've only budgeted for somebody who has 10, you know.
Right.
Now, I mentioned this earlier, one of the things, and who knows, maybe I may not be around by the time this happens, but I think one of the options as things go on is an option tax, an LIT, a local income tax for public safety to try to cover some of these shortfalls that we have across the board in public safety. I'm just warning everybody, probably people want to burn me down after this, but
And we can
that might be
also,
the future where this goes.
we can also look at reappropriating where the lit money that we have now goes and appropriate it differently, but we can't do that for this year.
Do we have some type of estimate what this is gonna cost? Do we even know? I mean, not that I'm against it. by
Yeah,
any
we
means.
had a
By
rough,
any means.
it's less than what Travis had looked at some numbers, and
Yeah, I did
it's thousands of dollars, not hundreds.
Yeah, okay, that's
Yeah, I did the
fine.
2025 and 30% increase to kind of get us up, if not
Okay.
higher.
Yeah, so like we're
But,
talking
I
like,
haven't performed these figures that he just came up with here. with those,
Okay.
but this is
Potentially,
only per year.
in my head, I'm thinking for this, probably like around 125,000 increase a year across.
And
the
our
phase
payroll
one.
budget.
In the payroll budget, 125,000 total.
You've got the new billing system in order too, right?
October 1st it
Yeah.
starts.
Yeah,
So
so-
I've been getting them a lot of paperwork and stuff that they want. I mean, it's.
I'll be honest, I think that is going to make leaps and
I do
bounds.
too.
I hope that that's a way we can increase. I mean, we've been looking at ways we can increase our
I
revenue.
hope it closes the gap, because, maybe not everybody on the service knows this either, but, just in case this is discussed out in the public after this, what we're talking about right now is trying to break even with EMS. Right now, it's cost center. We bill, and, obviously, we have probably a higher amount of Medicare and Medicaid in Starke County, so, we're challenged by that, but in the grand scheme of things, we take in less than what it costs to run the service, and so the county has to come up with
Well, hang on, man.
300 to
We can't
500,000
vote
to
this
supplement. So I think that would be another way too, is that if the billing and other things can help with that,
Since he gets done.
and we can look at efficiencies in other areas, that helps, you know what I mean? And so I think as far as our assets plan, we're doing better, taking better care of our equipment, that helps. The bases are starting to get fixed up a little bit, you know, that helps, you know, I mean, you know, baby steps, you know, but I mean, I think in the grand scheme of things, you know, if we can just bring in that additional revenue, we can get there.
You're really gonna make a motion real quick, so.
Well, you know, I think we're,
Case
I'm
got
sorry,
it.
I'll get up, yeah, so, go ahead, and then we'll open for discussion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve a part-time EMS wage policy for EMT. Phase 1 will be 12.7. Are we raising these, right? $12.76 an hour. Phase 2, $13.52 an hour, and phase 3, $14.28. And for a paramedic, $17.43, then $18.20, then $19. And this part-time employees at phase 1 will have an interview or an internal review after 60 days to deem if they have progressed as an employee to be moved on to phase 2. At this time, they'll be able to be moved to phase 2, and after another 60 days, can be moved to phase 3.
Motion, and is there a second? Okay, and just real quick discussion. The only thing is, could you also type up a policy then for your policy book too?
Yeah,
that
just
just
mirror that,
states it?
change the wages. like we
Yeah,
got
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yep.
that's cool with you, and then sign it, so we got it.
Okay, and then full-time employees.
Well, yeah, so I mean, the full-time EMTs, what are they making per hour?
12.13. So it's a hair, now paramedics make the same exact rate,
Right.
part-time and full-time 17.
There's no there's the disparity still at EMTs.
Right.
I
So-
think the same.
I think that's what we were thinking
Okay.
when we talked was,
Yeah.
so.
I just wanted to clarify.
I amend my
I know you read that
motion
as part-time.
to part-time and full-time.
Okay.
So that made me think of everything.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
better?
when he said part-time, I was like, whoa.
I was just reading at the top of the
Are
page.
you okay?
My
for a
bad.
Second on that. Is there any further discussion? Don, are you good with that too?
Yes, I am.
All right, sir.
It takes a minute. to
All
scroll back
those in
over.
favor?
Turn your mic back.
And is there any opposed? Thank you, Travis. And hopefully that gives you a few more tools to help with employee retention. Again, let all your staff know that we really appreciate
Not an
it.
hour.
All right, thank you.
Total.
Thank you very much.
No. Total, like, you get 30 cents this month.
I really love the house.
I can give her Wendy 30
If
cents.
we ever,
She could run
if
the
we
cook
ever,
off.
get any of this, American Recovery Act money, maybe we could look at some, doing some things with it too.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Well,
If
we
we
also
ever
have
figure
some
that
other
out.
revenue that the council worked on getting to from another project, so.
Oh, I thought that was the result.
As far as I'm concerned, that's part of economic development. Having good
It is.
healthcare in the county. That too, yeah, so, you know, that's why I was telling Travis when we met today about it, this is just the start of, you know, but we want you guys to know that you're on our radar screen. It wasn't, you know, the fact that we weren't listening or anything like that, so,
That takes time.
yeah, so,
Thank you very much for that.
that's the extent of what we have on the agenda. Richard, did you have anything? Okay, Mark? Have you met everybody on the council yet?
I don't think I've met you. I don't think I've met you.
My name is Howard Bailey, sir.
Okay, Mark Bedell. I'm the new park superintendent.
Oh, okay.
Come and talk to you.
Okay, Mark. Nice to meet you.
They're working towards it, because like, the park, well, the park board had decided they wanted to get him a cell phone, so.
Right.
We met with Mark the other day. And Mark knows that we want to work on some stuff that, you know, it takes baby steps or whatever. One of the things that I asked them to talk to the board about too, I'm a little concerned about is that they want them to be posted out there at the Bass Lake site, but there's no heating. And so I'd really, personally, I'd feel better if he had an office.
I've been meeting at
in one of
everybody
our
else's
buildings.
office.
Yeah, and yeah, now you're kind of traveling around, but in the winter, you need to be able to.
We didn't mean to get you fired.
All your park plans and, you know, everything like that, so, you know, but yeah. we
You
went
may
Mark's
be
house,
doing this,
you know,
so-
he's got a, well, I sent a message out to the council and talked
She's
about his
texting.
experience and things like that, but he's
Get
excited.
back on Zoom.
He's a property owner in Bass Lake already now, I
Yeah.
guess, and I will-
Last weekend.
I will say though that, just in discussion, just so the council knows, and, Don's on there and those that aren't here right now. But as far as, covering the whole county, and that's one of the things we had some discussion about and Mark's committed to, is that the thing I want to make sure is that it doesn't all go to Bass Lake. In fact, a lot of the attention needs to go to our other parks and increasing our surface area for parks. One of the things that we determined was in lieu of the economic development that we're not bringing into the county right now, one of the things we need to shine out on, and tourism is one of those. In our parks, people love to come here and go kayaking. I think we all agree we want to have more trails. There's a lot of things that we want to see develop, and I think, having somebody that has experience, adopting those kind of things and growing those kind of things up is going to be a benefit to us to try to make more projects like that in reality. So, does anybody else have anything? How's everything going over there?
Everything's fine.
Been a little busy a couple times here lately.
We've been busy.
Yeah.
5 in 3 days.
Wow.
Oh, that's crazy.
As long as I'm not one of them.
Yeah, that's what we're all starting for.
Anybody else?
Maybe you want to walk out of
Does
here.
anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Howard beat you. You want a second?
Beat me.
I was looking at it.
You're gonna mess around.
All right.
That was the motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
I was.
Any opposed? One thing I would say is, let's focus on everybody bringing their tab.